like to confirm all my words with figures. The amount of deposits of the population increased 18.8% within last year, and deposits of business more than 28%. What it means only one thing: both people and businesses trust the banking system, and they understand that it's safer to keep the money with the banks rather than otherwise, especially during wartime. Regardless of the war, the banking system finished the year with revenue. 46 out of 67 banks finished the year with revenue. The operations in the banking sector, however, reduced 68%, and the income of the banking system was 76.4% billion hryvnias in 2022. However, the system is still sustainable, and the adequacy of relative capital with the standard of 10%, this is the minimal indicator. The average in the banking system is 20%. The liquidity of the banking system is 511 billion hryvnias, which evidences the sustainability and stability of the banking system. What I can add is something that everybody is curious about potential blackouts. The network of banks, which joined more than 60 banks, was created upon initiative of National Bank of Ukraine, with the total number of branches of more than 1,000 branches. All those branches are equipped with reserve communication channels, special personnel, and power generators. All those branches operate in 360 settlements all across Ukraine, and they are ready to provide banking services and any type of financial services, even during full blackout. So talking about those complicated electric power issues, the access to the banking products will be provided to all the citizens of Ukraine. Ms. Olena, recently we had a meeting with the we had representatives of Ukrainian business visiting us, and they mentioned that one of the main problems that our businesses face now is the problem of lending, the absence of free funds which could be provided by the banking system and the state as well. So in that area, what's the situation with the lending and deposits? What's your evaluation of this situation? What are the prospects of development of this situation? What are the prospects for the businesses this year? Well, really, from the beginning of the war, there was a fall of the demand for lending, and for some businesses, for some areas of business, for some business sectors, it decreased really dramatically. And the first to go out of lending coma were the agrarians, who were in need of funds for sowing campaign, for seasonal works, and the government extended their shoulder for them. So to say, they implemented 579 program for agrarians with very good lending conditions, and thanks to that we were able to fulfill the sowing campaign and harvesting campaign, and it was not really as bad as it was expected, as many feared. Then there was some cautious lending for consumers initiated, mostly short-term lending in hryvnia, and we may expect this trend to develop. And I would like to mention some more positive things about lending. Apart from the government programs, there are more programs. For example, a lending program by Credo Bank in cooperation with the European Bank for Reconstruction of Development. They offer loans for their clients. This program is just only approved and it will start operating shortly. So the risks under that program are being split between the bank and the EBRD, and the program will be working even in the areas close to the front lines. The other programs to support the implemented to support the business. For example, one was deployed in Ashad Bank, the lending for small and medium-sized businesses, and they are being financed at the expense of the government of Germany, and they are implemented thanks for the German federal campaign. So the amounts any company may use the loans in an amount of 260 hryvnias, excluding VAT, and it's a positive signal because both Ukrainian banks and international organizations, they will try to support our businesses. So the range of interest will be from 0% for the agrarians up to 30% for the microcredits for the small enterprises. Normal rate for small and medium-sized business is 24-26%. And however, the demand for such loans is obviously not too big, and many businesses would rather resort to 579 program. So under this program, 579, more than 20,000 loans were extended in total amount of 282 million hryvnia. Mortgage is in not so big demand for the time being. There is a special rate program where the mortgages are extended at 5 to 7% interest rate, and 1,128,000,000 hryvnias were extended in loans for the families of mostly military servicemen and law enforcement servicemen. The demand is still not so big. However, there is a trend for the growth of demand for such loans. As to the deposits, we fulfilled a lot of studies which show the trust of Ukrainian population, and if there is such trust, so who are the most trusted banks? The deposit base expanded almost 30% last year, and we may and the breakdown is 18% in hryvnia, and the minimal rate is 6%. So the best advice is to talk to a manager with the bank and to pick something that is most suitable for this or that consumer. Upon initiative of the president last year, the government undertook the responsibility of 100% guarantee for all the deposit, which resulted in expansion of deposit base. Ms. Olena, getting back to the mortgage, we understand that recently there was a law adopted 7998 as to the reimbursement to our citizens for the destroyed property, the property destroyed by the occupiers. Soon this program is about to start working. Is our banking system ready for that? We understand that it will most likely result with the demand for mortgage to increase sharply. Really, the banking system really supported that law, with the only condition that the banks will understand the mechanism for reimbursement of their costs, because we all understand that we need to help our citizens, and that obviously we don't need to pay for something that doesn't exist anymore, and there is certain mechanism how to submit the paperwork through DIA application to sign up for the program. We already have more than 300,000 such applications. However, it would be impossible to solve the problem only at cost of the banks, because the banks will simply not lend the people, and the banking system, I mean the commercial banks, they are very meticulous in following how this mechanism will be implemented for the banks and what will be the details of this mechanism. Well, the banks create reserves for such lending, which will influence their liquidity, their capital, and we have to understand how the expenses of the banks will be compensated. So this is something that we discuss with National Bank of Ukraine, with the government, and hopefully there will be a mechanism found at cost to compensate it for at cost of reparations or at cost of the funds which were confiscated from Russian Federation abroad. But it requires additional political decisions, and those who were active in lending, they see the decrease of demand for lending almost 4 times. And among those banks who were actively lending for mortgage, for them the compensation will be the main issue with regard to their participation in the program. And obviously I would like to ask you about the forecast for the rate of hryvnia this spring. We see that the hryvnia strengthened against dollar. Will we keep observing the same dynamic? Well, the rate is still stable, and we hope that shortly there will be no drastic changes to the rate. The National Bank adheres to the policy of the exchange rate and fully covers the deficit for hryvnia with interventions. It's about which amounts to the expense of $3 billion per month. Obviously, the international help is bigger than those demand, and our currency reserves currently reached $30 billion in January, and they are above the level before the full-scale invasion of Russia into Ukraine. And the key question, what will dollar cost in spring? The National Bank will adhere to the policy of the fixed rate at the point of 36.6 hryvnias, which means that the rate in the streets will be around 39-41 hryvnia per dollar. Euro will be a bit more expensive, and it will fluctuate at the market rate of dollar to euro. And the difference between the official and so-called street course is due to complicated logistics and administrative burden. I know that many people wait for recommendations as to the purchase of the currency. It's cheaper to buy currency for deposit because it goes at the official rate, and it's easier to pay in non-cash rather than in cash if you make some currency payments. So this is my short advice. We have basically two rates as of now. There is a market rate and official rate, and it's better than it was in the beginning of the war. We had like 4 or 5 different rates. Now it's only 2 of them, and during martial law, during what we're going through now, this is the reality we're having. Dear colleagues, if you have any questions, please go ahead, introduce yourself. Vladislav Obuch, Ukrinform. My first question is about purchase of currency for deposit. Is this mechanism ideal? Are there any ways to avoid any abuses? Because some of my friends said that they were not able to withdraw the currency after their deposits expired because the banks said they didn't have currency cash. And what's your solution for current Alpha Bank case? There is a draft law being prepared which would allow to nationalize this financial institution under facilitated procedure, and there are different thoughts by the experts who say it's not worth to increase the government role in the banking system, and some say it's not so bad during martial law. What's your opinion on that? Well, thank you for this question. Really, the banks, when a client opens a deposit, they order certain amount of currency. They may not extend it to the client right away, and within some time, like a week, they may transfer it to a card account opened in foreign currency, and the consumer may be able to pay with that card and to virtually have that money in their wallets. We had a study about our migrants. We say that it's been 10 to 11 million people who left Ukraine, and they use such services, such applications, well, which are not available. Well, the services and applications provided by Ukrainian banks, there are no equivalents abroad, and they can easily open a dollar-denominated card without visiting bank branch, and they may receive their deposit paid to that card, like having it in their phones. That's an alternative they may use. I didn't track this issue all across the system, but but I don't know about such cases, and I don't think there may be a practice of some severe abuse. Maybe not on that very same day, but you know, it's war going on, and sometimes you have to wait. And as to the Alpha Bank, your second question, we are following those news for more than a year, and there is a couple of scenarios, and I think the state will undertake the most feasible resolution. And because it's a systemic bank with more than 5,000 Ukrainians employed there, and we should base our decision on keeping the money to the most extent possible, because there is a lot of deposits in there, and so that none of the clients of the bank, of the individual customers, feels any negative consequences. But it's more a question to the regulator and to the bank itself. Dear friends, are there any more questions left on the floor? Well, now that we don't have any more questions on the floor, I want to thank Miss Olena for joining our broadcast. I'm reminding you, joining us was Olena Korobkova, the chair of the Independent Association of Banks of Ukraine. Our team is working on our schedule for tomorrow. Bear with us, trust in our armed forces, and glory to Ukraine.